Well, hey there, friends. Welcome back to The Link. I hope you've enjoyed the last several weeks of conversations where we've taken up the question, why worship? What is the value of the corporate worship gathering? Well, we're going to kind of put a bow on it in this particular episode of The Link. Now, I just want to say this as a preface before I get into the heart of what we're going to talk about today. And that is so much of our challenges around the corporate worship gathering are what I would call stylistic preferences and not scriptural preferences. And what I mean by that is just know that we all have our own preferences on style of music we like to sing, volume of music, all of the things from lighting, the smoke machines, and everything in between. And I respect that. I appreciate that. But make sure you major in the majors and not the minors. What I mean by that is the number one driving question that you should have, I should have when we gather, is this biblical? And if it's biblical, then everything else preferentially, I hope that we're able to show a lot of grace about. I love this statement from St. Augustus: in essentials agree, in non-essentials liberty, and in all things charity. Let's make sure we bring that spirit and disposition to the corporate worship gathering. Now, you still can go to your campus pastors or to your leaders if you have questions about the other things, but let's major in the majors. Which brings me to the first point I want to make on this edition of The Link, and that is, out of everything that I got a chance to talk to Ayanda and Jacob about, the regulative principle of worship is the one big thing I want you to walk away from. You and I are going to worship in different settings with different groups of people throughout our Christian journey. How are we to know whether or not this worship was pleasing to God or not? Well, the regulative principle of worship simply says that Scripture is our guide, that if it's not found in Scripture, we shouldn't do it in our corporate worship gatherings. Or to put another way, if something is being done that's a direct violation of a command of Scripture, we should not do it in our corporate worship gatherings. That is so protective for my soul and yours. And it's really helpful as we're trying to evaluate one gathering to another to say whether or not this is actually beneficial for my soul and actually pleasing to God. Remember, at the end of the day, although there are benefits to us for corporate worship, ultimately corporate worship is for God. We come together to sing for an audience of one. Even when we do things like communion, it's in the presence of the Lord, remembering until He returns. Everything we do in a corporate worship gathering should be driven by the desire to please and honor Him. And yes, we'll benefit from it. We'll experience His joy, His presence. We'll be formed for His purposes. We'll be mobilized for mission. We'll have great fellowship with other believers. But ultimately, we get together for an audience of one. The final thing that I love to leave you with when it comes to this conversation about corporate worship gathering is to recognize that we gather together as the body of believers so that we can send witness and testimony to the watching world. There's something powerful that happens when people drive by our churches and they see parking lots full of cars. And you may not even notice it. You may not even know the message that it sends to the community. But what it sends to the community is a message that something special is happening there. And even further, that the gospel still has power. So again, when you're missing, you are missed. When you're not present, something is lost in the gathering. So I want to encourage you to make sure you're there. Consider it, like we said earlier, almost like a roll call for school. You don't want to miss a day. And for those who maybe find that their worship gathering has been sporadic, I want to give you the 52-week challenge. I call it the 52-week challenge. Make a decision that for 1 year, I'm not going to miss a Sunday. For 1 year, I want to gather together consistently with the people of God and see what happens to your soul. I promise you, you will not regret it. You'll grow, you'll be more mature, you'll see God's grace in a whole new way, and you'll see fruitfulness in your life that you could only hope for. So I hope these conversations were enriching to you. I know we just scratched the surface, but that's why we want you to dig deeper with your church leaders. And if you're part of the Woodside family, let's make sure that we're pressing into worship at our local campuses as well. Well, I can't wait till we're together again, and I can't wait to see you on the next edition of The Link.